Welcome back to another episode of Women Breaking Barriers. I'm your host, Kelsey Mead. Today on Women Breaking Barriers, we have Ms. Lisa Varytimidis, who is the Senior Associate Director of Athletics, Internal Affairs, as well as the Senior Woman Administrator, which is also called the SWA. According to NCAA.org, the Senior Woman Administrator is the highest-ranking female in each NCAA athletics department or conference office. Their job is to promote meaningful representation of women in the leadership and management of college sports. This position was added to the athletic departments in 1981, which is the same year that the NCAA added women's championships. Ultimately, the SWA was created to help ensure that women were involved in the male-dominated administration of college athletics. Although all NCAA schools are not legislatively required to have an SWA, nearly all of them do. Lisa has been at Austin Peay for almost 3 years now, but before she came here, she was at the University of Louisiana at Monroe, Grace Episcopal School, Grambling State University, and 3 other schools in her career. She has had job titles ranging from graduate assistant to SWA. With all your experience in athletics and administration, Austin Peay is lucky to have you. Without further ado, I welcome to the show Ms. Lisa Varytimidis.
Thank you, Kelsey. I'm happy to be here. Glad to have. I'm just excited that we're able to talk about women in sports in general.
Well, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be here today. It means a lot, and I'm looking forward to learning more about your journey and how your life has been affected by Title IX and the opportunities that women continue to have in the sports realm. First, I would like to discuss more in depth the positions that you have held over the many years you have worked in the sports industry. I know I only mentioned 2 of the positions you have held, which were graduate assistant and SWA, but I know there are more. Would you like to tell us about some other roles you have played at the variety of schools you've worked?
Sure. So I have been a head volleyball coach at 2 Division I, actually 3 Division I institutions prior to moving into administration. And I have been the assistant athletic director of compliance while I was at the University of Louisiana Monroe. I have been an academic counselor. Shout out to the academic counselors of the world because they are definitely our backbone for our student athletes in academia.
Yeah, for sure.
And now I've transitioned to the executive level of being not only just the SWA, but also being an assistant athletic director or an associate, now a senior associate athletic director.
Would you like to discuss a little bit about what exactly it means to be an SWA and what that means to you?
For me, being an SWA, it's something that when I knew that I was going to transition out of coaching, that was kind of my next step, being a senior woman administrator. And I have to say that just because you're a senior woman administrator does not mean that you handle everything just for women's sports. It doesn't mean, hey, just go handle the volleyball team or handle women's tennis. You are an administrator for all student athletes. It just means that you are just the highest ranking female administrator in that particular institution. And so, just when somebody says an SWA, if it's a football player, if it's a baseball player, they are, we will handle issues and they can bring those to me also. So I just wanted to make that clear as far as the SWA. And it also gives women a seat at the table, and when I say a seat at the table, a seat at the decision-making table at the highest level. So that's why it's really important to have a senior woman administrator that sits at the table and helps your athletic department make decisions that not only affect the women's sports, but also the men's sports.
For sure. Would you say that being an SWA has impacted the women in sports around you the most?
I would say that. I mean, obviously, as a woman in athletics, you are always cognizant of the things that are going on in women's sports. And so having that title, but also having the resources behind that title to help push forward our women's sports, not only just the student athletes, but also the women who want to work in sports, making sure that they are receiving the right salary, making sure they're having opportunities to be educated in their whatever work they're doing, pushing them forward and elevating them also professionally.
Right. So let's take it back a little bit to your life growing up, playing collegiately. Do you remember a time in your life when women in athletics became more prominent in the sports world?
Absolutely. I mean, growing up, you didn't really see women in sports on TV unless it was time for the Olympics. You saw figure skating, you saw gymnastics, because those are the things that were broadcasted on TV on a regular basis. So, as the years have progressed, we've seen, the WNBA, we've seen women's soccer come into play. You always had tennis, but now that with television and social media, you're able to push those agendas forward. And, little girls now see women playing a sport something that you didn't see before. Even, women playing football.
Right.
And, there's a league. And so that was pretty cool to me. I was like, man, I could play football. I mean, I played with my cousins in the backyard, but I never thought I could go and actually play it professionally. And so now, with seeing, our first female kicker, and I mean, all of these things that are happening, and as far as our, our refs and our umpires, all of these barriers that are being broken, and it's taken that long for that to happen. We still have a ways to go, but still,
for sure,
it has definitely changed.
Yeah, we definitely still have a long ways to go, but I remember growing up too, like you said, seeing the women's sports on TV, and it gave me wow, I can do that too. One day, hopefully I can make it there. And I know you played growing up. I know you played in college. So what was your collegiate career like?
So for me, my collegiate career started in junior college, and I didn't start playing volleyball until late, my junior year. So it was just and then I was like, okay, I'm just going to go to this junior college, because I saw a girl that I thought she was phenomenal. I was like, man, I want to be like her. Again, another role model. And I was like, man, I can go here and win championships. And then from there, I went to the University of Georgia and played a year, and then transferred and finished my eligibility at the University of Louisiana Monroe. So I kind of ran the gamut, like so many student athletes do.
For sure.
And so, some people may start at a 4-year institution, but there are also great athletes that have come through the junior college cycle. So.
Right, and I think that has definitely helped you get to where you are today, being in the role that you are, with all these different rules around transferring and coming from JUCO to D1, maybe even just D2, D3.
Yep.
Title IX was passed in 1971. So what was that experience like when you were playing versus even what you see today in women collegiate sports?
I will tell you that it has changed dramatically since when I was in college, because I will tell you, at some of my institutions, while I knew who my SWA was, they really didn't have, I'm going to say, a lot of power or clout, because they didn't really have a seat at the table. It was just kind of a name, and they basically kind of handled all the women's sports. And so as time has gone on, it's transitioned into more than just a name. It's actually, again, having a seat at the table, being able to make decisions for a whole. And so I think that is important. We still have some ways to go, but again, there has been a dramatic change.
Right. It sounds like athletics has played a major role in your life. Did you always know exactly what you wanted to do when you graduated? Like you said, you played junior year volleyball. Did you know that you were going to go to college for volleyball after seeing that role model, and what your career was going to look like after you graduated?
I think at 17 and 18 years old, none of us have any idea what we were going to do. A lot of guidance, from our parents and our coaches and our families. I always knew that I was going to play a sport in college. I just wasn't sure which one. And then, volleyball is the one that just stuck with me and was passionate about. and I think that's like that for so many.
Yeah.
And I think it's important as when student athletes are in high school and they're trying to make those decisions, you know, do something that you're passionate about.
Right.
And also do something that's going to allow you to get an education, because this is a ways to another means. It's just an avenue for you to be able to do something that you absolutely love to do, but also get something in return, which is, you know, education and hopefully some networking and down the road.
For sure.
So.
If it wasn't volleyball, what sport would you have gone with for college?
Well, I also did track and field in college too. So
oh, okay.
I think it was definitely been track and field. Basketball, you know, I loved basketball, but they have long seasons. You know, track, you just got to run it, jump it, and it's over with.
Did you do both track and field, or more so track? What events did you do?
I was a triple jumper and a long jumper, and then I did the heptathlon. So they figured out that I could run and jump and throw a couple of things. And so that led me to that path. It was fun. It was something new. It was something that I hadn't tried before. And I was like, hey, I'm going to get an opportunity to do this. And my school's getting paid for, so this is great. This is what I'm going to do.
That's awesome. A dual sport athlete, that is fantastic. What does it feel like knowing that you have continued to knock down walls for the next generation of women pursuing a career in the sports industry?
This is my passion. This is what I knew that I wanted to do when I got out of coaching. I knew that I wanted to be able to affect the lives of young women and men at an administrative level. I knew that. It's just something that I wanted everybody to have the college experience that I had.
Right.
And the only way that I was going to do that is to be not only just as a coach, but administratively to be able to make the changes and that affect all of not only just the staff and the student athletes. And so I just had to get to work and figure out how I was going to do that.
That's awesome. How you're going to get there. That is fantastic. As our time here is coming to an end, I have one more question for you. Is there any advice that you would give to females out there wanting to work in athletics?
I would say to anybody that was going to be working in athletics is that they need to network, start networking now. Figure out what speaks to you, because there's so many areas in athletics. And once you figure that out, you start networking, and these opportunities will help you with that networking. You know, talk to your coaches, come in and talk to your administrators, because we know a lot of people, and you never know who knows this, and you know, I can make a connection, or that person can make that connection, say, hey, you need to reach out to this person. I met them on this, and we can give you those little, you know, breadcrumbs to help get you started. But definitely start the networking. That is the key.
That is some great advice. I've heard that multiple times in my life. That's some great advice, and I really hope that people take that to heart when they listen to this, hear this show. But once again, I would like to thank you for being here today. I know you have a very busy schedule. All sports teams are in season here at Austin Peay in spring. Maybe you want to tell us a little bit about that, like how, I know it's been crazy this spring. How have you juggled that?
You know, we're a team. We're a team, and it takes everybody on our staff to do that. And you know, with COVID involved, we are just, you know, boots to the ground. Not just myself, and we're making sure that, you know, each of our sports has an administrator with them to make sure that their needs are being met, and we just go. I mean, we ask our student athletes to do that, so we're just going to do that ourselves, and we just manage it on a day-by-day, week-by-week basis. And so far, so good.
Perfect. I know that you were with basketball, both men's and women's. Their seasons unfortunately came to an end in OVC play, and now you're with tennis, men's tennis,
men's and women's tennis. We'll be on the road. They'll get to see Miss Lisa a lot.
One sport to the next. Miss Lisa Varytimidis, thank you for being in studio today. Your journey and advice are an inspiration to the next generation of women who have many more opportunities to make careers in male-dominated sport professions. I appreciate you, and I am sure that the Austin Peay Athletics Department does as well. That's all the time we have for today, folks. Thanks for watching Women Breaking Barriers. I'm your host, Kelsey Mead, and as always, let's go Peay.